there! Today I'm showing you how I designed this mysterious muted autumn arrangement. All of the flower names, as well as the tools and materials I used to design this arrangement, are linked in the description box below for you. Alright guys, so first things first, if you've been here for a minute, you know now, hopefully, that I always start first by prepping my vase. And what I do that with are the 3/8 inch felt pads. I take off the original kind of, I don't know what material that is, but they come with their own pre-prepped felt pads and they're really not that great. They only come with 3, so I remove them and put on my own. They're 3/8 inch felt pads. I match them to the face with brown. It's the closest. They didn't have black, but it's good enough. They disappear. So then I go in with galvanized chicken wire. I cut off about a 9-inch wide, and this particular spool is 20 inches. So 9-inch wide, but then also the width of the spool itself is 20 inches. So I get a 9-inch wide by 20-inch long piece, and then cut off about 6 inches from the bottom. I take that bottom piece and place it into the bottom of the vase so that it catches the stems, and then I mold the other longer piece into a dome-like shape and bend out where they meet at the seams or hinges, if you will. And this whole technique just basically creates a nice open air structure, because all of these pavé arrangements that I make are very dense with a lot of stems, so we need a lot of open space, but we also need the little catch there at the bottom to catch the ends of the stem, so it really kind of keeps everything in place. Then I go in with 1/4 inch, in this case green, waterproof Oasis floral tape, crisscross over top that wire structure, and then seal at the uppermost brim. So 1 scoop of Floral Life food, and there's what it looks like. And I'll just set that aside until I'm ready to design. When I'm ready, I fill it with warm water. Warm is good. It helps the flowers to hydrate. And today I have these epic, had this in the last arrangement if you watched that, the foam-free autumn floral arrangement. This is a similar concept, except today's palette is muted. We have this really fun, mysterious, muted palette, and you'll see as we go along here how I achieve that. But I start off usually with hydrangea, and this is that super fun, same variety hydrangea that I used in also that other autumn arrangement. I'll link that video up here for you if you'd like to watch that as well. Essentially all of my arrangements now, and for the last however many years, I can't remember how long it's been since I've abandoned using Oasis, but I designed these really dense and also highly precise arrangements, which most chicken wire structures would not be the right structure to create this arrangement. I used to design these very dense and highly precise floral arrangements, which, if you've ever worked with Oasis floral foam, you know what I'm saying. You get this very precise application, which is great. I was able to construct and build arrangements that were not necessarily possible without the floral foam. So because that was my main method of building and constructing arrangements before that, again, were not possible otherwise, I've had to completely rethink how I design these arrangements without Oasis. And so I came up with this chicken wire dome, and I think that this is thus far the best method. You do have to use long stems if you're making a large sized arrangement, so you know, you do have to keep that in mind. It's not, you won't be able to use shorter stems with this application and this method. So that is one of the big drawbacks of this style, but nonetheless, I think it's really important, and I definitely am going to make a video on why it's so important not to use Oasis. I started designing as a florist essentially in the 90s. I started as a 14-year-old in my high school. I was really super blessed with a 4-year, what we called ornamental horticulture, which is kind of the old school Victorian term for floral design. It's called ornamental horticulture, and I learned that through the generosity of my high school. I went to high school in Hudson, New Hampshire, and I had a 4-year program where I took ornamental horticulture as my elective, and I was just obsessed. I've always been obsessed. So anyways, being a florist back in the 90s, there were no precautions with Oasis floral foam. No one knew yet the effects or health detriments that it posed. And yeah, so it took me essentially until maybe 5 years ago where I really started phasing that out of my work, maybe longer, 7 years. I don't really remember, but yeah, so I've had to really reimagine, rethink how I design these highly textural, detailed, and also kind of geometrically unusual floral arrangements that if you're designing classically, you really don't have to worry about that because the wire structure and the style itself lends itself to those mechanics. But anyways, I think that's a little bit of a tangent. Right now, I'm working with carnations, and if you've been here for the last several how to make pavé arrangements, you might have noticed by now that I always start with hydrangea, and then I usually go in with my second flower being carnation. And this is because, in a sense, I like to use carnations kind of in a hydrangea style format. So I will cluster them together to make a kind of similar mound, but a tighter textural detail. So I'll go in the holes where there aren't hydrangea, and usually I'll put in about 3, sometimes 4 stems. I like to work in 3s, and you also know that I like to work in triangles. Really haven't been able to make visual sense of that for you, but I will break that down in another video if you're interested in seeing the ins and outs of what I'm talking about regarding that. So super special carnation. Love this gorgeous blush color. I loved the green and red hydrangea complementing this mauve-ish blush color, just super special. Now I have this kind of sunset coral color, coxcomb celosia, which you get your typical orange color, you get that primary orange color, and then you have that end of summer / autumn color where it gets a little more faded, a little bit more burnt, and I just love it. It's so special, a little bit more of a muted tone to it. And what I'm doing to each of these stems as I'm going, and if you are processing flowers, I don't recommend doing this while processing because it'll create air holes and you don't want that. You just want to strip off the foliage when processing. But when you go to design, as I'm doing here, I'm using my Victorinox florist knife to whittle off any of the nodes on the stem so that when I go to place the stem in the arrangement, it's not getting caught on that chicken wire mold. If you need to take a stem out and rearrange it, it's a lot easier if you whittle and clean down those stems because you can just slide it right out. It makes for a very easy, clean, proficient format. So yeah, more about that Floral Oasis stuff. I've been doing a little bit of research, and I want to circle back to this because I don't think I've been as explicit about it. Last arrangement video was, of course, the no foam autumn floral arrangement video. Now we've got Euphorbia, gorgeous muted plum color, and I'm leaving on just the top 2 pieces of foliage there if they look good, so that way I get this little funky, spiky kind of accent textural detail there. But yeah, so going back to the Oasis stuff, I Have not yet tried agri-wool. I've watched a couple of videos with different florists talking about it, showing the application. I have not seen it at my vendors downtown, so I will have to go out of my way to make a tutorial for that product for you, like a unboxing or first time video with that. But based on what I saw with the tutorials that I watched and the unveiling of that product, I was not impressed. It seems like it would have a very limited capability and range of stems that you would be able to work with that. I'm curious, if you're a florist here and you do work with agri-wool, do you like it? Do you recommend it? What are the applications that you use agri-wool in? I do think that it is way better for installation pieces. If you have large format, large scale arrangements that you're making, you can wrap chicken wire around it, but still it seems like from the videos that I watched that a lot more work goes into it. You have to pierce the agri-wool, then place the stem in, and then sometimes the stems don't even really stay in place. Oasis makes a quote-unquote biodegradable product, but I just don't believe it. It says it composts up to 91%. 91%. I still do not want any percentage of harmful chemicals or any of that microplastic going into our landfills, so I'm just doing what I can to mitigate that. This spectacular spray rose. So here, this is gonna be probably the longest part of the video. You'll see here that I'm going in with these beautiful Zenport needle nose shears. These are my favorite shears for this type of work. I'm going in and cleaning up all of the little calyx that stick outside of the rose head itself, so that when you go to put that rose stem into the arrangement, you won't see any of the little spindly calyx pieces here. If you don't know what a calyx is, this is what it looks like. And then I'm also taking off any of the laterals that don't fit properly into a dome-like bunch, if that makes sense. So any of the stems that would be underneath that top layer of roses, I'm going to strip off and set aside. Maybe use those in just a tiny little vase arrangement for my desk, but I don't think because of the length of those laterals that they'll make it into this arrangement, but there are plenty of blooms that I can keep that on the uppermost part of the stem. Most of them are pretty good. These Zenport shears are the best, and as a new or beginning florist, you may be confused as to why we work with so many different tools, but I assure you that it is well worth the investment. You will be so much happier. The applications to use all of these different tools in different formats, it just makes everything so much easier, more fluid, and as you know, if you've worked in a flower shop, everything is about time and efficiency, and so these tools really help to create that. Then I go in with the Victorinox Florist knife and again whittled off any of those remaining thorns or just little nubs that would get caught in that chicken wire, and then give a nice cut at an angle at the end of the stem and place into the arrangement. There are other types of needle nose shears. You don't have to get the specific Zenport, but I like this specific set because they are extra long and very lightweight. So if you have any sort of hand issues or holding heavier tools is cumbersome for you, you find it a little bit burdensome, these are great. They're very lightweight, and you can find them in my Amazon store linked below. Continuing to whittle off those stems and placing those into the arrangement. I just think this is such a fun, funky palette. This was another arrangement done for the lovely Gabby over at Alien Films LA, another fantastic regular supporter of my work, and I'm just so grateful. All of the people that order from me tend to be regulars. I do get probably about 10% of my business is kind of random people from the internet, which is cool because it's always a fun new opportunity to meet new people. But most of the people who order from me are regular, so I really try to take care of them. Meaning, I tend to hook them up more than the average florist would. This is the extravagant size arrangement in my store, which is $995. And as a florist, you'll know that the general formula for creating floral arrangements is, it's a little bit convoluted, but depending on who you're talking to, it's the product markup 3.5 times, then plus 30% on labor. And then if it's for weddings and events, there's a 3.5 markup plus 40% for labor. I just go in, because we're in LA, rents are astronomical. The costs of the flowers have gone way up as well. I do a straight times 5. When you break it down either way, that is pretty much, there is a slight difference. It is a little bit more, obviously times 5, there's a little bit more. You make maybe like $20 more on average. Got those gorgeous amnesia roses. These are, classic. Love these guys so much. I love all of these mauve, muted, grayish, purple roses. Speaking of which, I have a new product in my shop. It's called Mystic, and it's one of my favorite gray roses. I'm not going to drop the name. If you can guess what that rose is, leave a comment below. But if you want to see that new product, it's in my store, also linked below, or FloralLuxLA.com, shop, and then Mystic. But gosh, just love these gray roses. This isn't quite a gray rose. It's more of a dusty lavender, I would say, but definitely has gray in it. And it's kind of that classic 90s mauve color. I just love it so much. Beautiful, obsessed, stunning, spectacular. Are you seeing this moody, muted, mysterious autumn palette coming together here? I love it so much. So going flip-flopping between topics, and I guess I'm making this video about Oasis again, but circling back to, saw on their website the biodegradable Oasis floral foam product that they have, and just not into it. If this is something that you would not put in your backyard, in your soil, or you would not put on your dinner plate, which is a little bit extreme, but to drive home the point, if you wouldn't do that, I really do not want to see that in our landfills. I don't want to see it in our waterways. And according to what some analysts have said, this particular type of plastic that the Oasis product use never biodegrades. Did you hear that? It never biodegrades. It will never go away. Not in 1,000 years, not maybe in 10,000 years. I don't know, that sounds extreme, but how do you know that far in advance? I don't know. It's not gonna happen in our lifetime. So why would we, for a single use, a floral arrangement, which flowers themselves are such beautiful, natural, vibrant, lively product, why would we want to use that plastic, formaldehyde laden, saturated with chemical product with such beautiful living creatures? So again, if you're using floral foam, I implore you to look for alternative methods. The agar wool is 100% natural. Apparently, I cannot confirm that. I haven't personally taken it to a lab, but that is an alternative, as well as the chicken wire method, and many other florists are tooting off different ways to do this. Now I've got stunning plum gray, muted beige, brown, I'm not exactly sure what color you would call this, but stunning, and I'm kind of very gently reflexing this Lisianthus. And then because the blooms are kind of staggered and they wouldn't fit properly into the arrangement with both blooms on the stem. They're not on the same surface. I'm cutting one of them off, so I'm just left with one bloom, which again, when creating these arrangements is one of those issues that you may run into because, again, it's not floral foam. You really can't use the shorter laterals or shorter stems because there is no water source that high. So we have to make sure that the stems go all the way down into the vase, at least 2 inches down into the vase. I really tried to make them go pretty much hit the bottom so that all stems have access to water at all times, so that if the recipient who receives this arrangement forgets to put fresh water into the arrangement, those flowers will continue drinking. That was another benefit of Oasis, but we're not going to talk about the benefits of Oasis because, again, we're trying to move away from that. I'm trying to educate on why this chicken wire mechanics is superior for making pavé arrangements, and especially in this dome method format that I've created. We've got that, again, that little sheet of chicken wire at the bottom that catches the ends of the stems, and then the open space inside of the arrangement or inside of the vase, and then the dome shape at the top that gives structure to our pavé arrangement. Again, this arrangement is the extravagant size, so when done, it's about a 20 to 23 inch cubed arrangement, dense with beautiful premium botanicals and flowers. Also, I don't know if you noticed, side note, I got my hair done and I am just feeling so fresh and red here. I'm feeling very gorgeous, and man, fresh color is like, there's nothing like it. It's just the most luscious experience. Now, beautiful tubed cymbidium orchids in that muted, kind of faded coral color, which matches beautifully that muted coral color coxcomb celosia. If you'd like to see a video on how to tube and stake cymbidium and other types of orchids, I will link that video for you up here. But for now, just so you know, I use the number 57 tubes, fill them with water, individually cut the blooms off of the cymbidium stems, poke a little hole in that cap, put the bloom in, and then tape it to a 12-inch green hyacinth stick. It's totally okay. Yes, the hyacinth sticks are dyed green, and if you were to use a clear glass vase, that would be problematic. It would turn the water just slightly green, which is very unsightly in my opinion. I do not like it, and it obviously doesn't look like a natural stem. So that's another reason why I use ceramic vases. Also, this UCI scratch vase that I pretty much always use for my large and extravagant size arrangements is not available on Amazon. It's not even available on their website. I don't understand where my vendors are getting them from. It's a very strange phenomenon, but nonetheless, my absolute favorite vase. It comes in a couple different sizes. This is the medium size. There is an even larger one that I use for my over-the-top arrangements. It's the perfect, kind of mimics a bowl or globe or orb-shaped glass vase, but it's ceramic and it's just perfect. It's got a wider circumference at the top of the vase than the bottom, so you can really fit in and do all sorts of different style arrangements in this vase. It doesn't have to be this particular style pavé arrangement that I'm making, but I have found for my purpose it's the perfect dimensions. And eventually, when I have my own vase line, which I hope that happens sooner than later, so that I have my own unique to FLORA LUX vase collection, I have some very specific dimensions in mind that I just am so annoyed by the types of vases available today. They're never the right size, they're never the right shape for the type of work that I want to create. So yeah, the next best type of vase that you can use if you can't get your hands on this UCI scratch vase is use a nice large cube vase. UCI also makes cube ceramic vases, which you will have to get a little bit more. You have to have a little bit more of a precise eye when you're making these round pavé arrangements in a square format vase, but I feel like it has the right dimensions. Or you could just use a glass orb vase, but again, you'll see all of the colored water in there. You could tea leaf line it. That is a nice kind of old school application method for concealing the color of the water and the stems so that you end up with a more modern, clean look. I think that seeing stems in the vase is very passé. I do not like that look whatsoever. I especially think it's just awful when florists leave the chicken wire inside a glass vase and you can see all of the mechanics there. It's just not elegant whatsoever, in my opinion. So I go for ceramic and I build around what's available. I'm finishing off this arrangement with this stunning but unusually expensive wax flower, and then finishing this arrangement with my favorite finishing touch. I give it a nice several, maybe 3 to 5 turns and spray up and down as I go, and that's it. Every single item you've seen in this video can be purchased from my Amazon store linked below. If you enjoyed this video or you got value from it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more floral design education and entertainment. Thanks for watching.